In this video, we are tracking snow in the east as a cold front may surprise some with heavier than forecasted totals. Also, we've got a whopping storm signal showing up in the medium range. This thing could bring heavy snow, ice, and severe thunderstorms to millions in the US. We're gonna break down all the latest info so you can be prepared. Welcome back, y'all. Ryan Hall here with the weather forecast. Things are really ramping up out there in the weather world, but as you guys know, things are also ramping up in other aspects of the news cycle. There's a lot of noise out there, and some people may not be paying attention to the weather. So let's work together to get some good, no hype, no nonsense weather information in front of as many people as possible by slapping that like button for the YouTube algorithm and of course sharing this across social media. And without further ado, let's get right into it. All right, let's start taking a look at those forecast models. This is the NAM 3 kilometer. And of course, if you want to keep up with the date and time, it's always above my head in Eastern time. Okay, so starting off today around 3 p.m., we've got a couple showers down here, maybe a real quick skiff of snow there in some parts of Arkansas, a flurry or two. But all of this is associated with a cold front that's going to spark up some more snow later tonight into early tomorrow morning. Look at this, guys. If we zoom in a little bit here, you can see snow showers are going to break out in the Appalachian Mountains around midnight to 2 a.m. That's going to work through West Virginia into northern Virginia, also into Maryland, southeastern Pennsylvania, into Delaware and New Jersey as well. And this is going to be heavy snow, okay? Whenever it starts up, we're going to see a heavy burst of snow, lay down a quick skiff of snow for a lot of people, and then there will be intermittent areas that see quite a bit of snow, like a respectable amount. This is being fueled by moisture from the Atlantic in conjunction with moisture from the lakes. Look how it's literally flying into the system here and amplifying against the Appalachian Mountains. And as I push this forward, once again, things, continue to show moderate to heavy snow. Tomorrow morning, I know it's Super Bowl Sunday. I know it's not a work day, but if you do have to be out there, things are going to be treacherous from into Maryland and then of course along the I-95 corridor all the way up to Boston. Okay, now you guys aren't going to get a bunch of snow out of this, but certainly enough to coat the roads. Okay, and then things start to taper off around noon and then really start to taper off around 3 p.m. Okay, so this is going to be a quick hitter. Now here's the projected snow totals from the NAM. This is one model run. Okay, however, it's the most bullish, so I want to show you this. This is on the higher end of what you could see. Some people down here in central and northern Virginia could see 3 to 6 inches. In fact, I just looked and the National Weather Service did go ahead and issue a winter storm warning for Charlottesville, Stanton. I thought I was going to be a little bit ahead of them here, but it looks like they're catching on to some of the stuff that I'm seeing. There's going to be a bullseye area right here where 2 to 4 inches is going to be the more widespread thing, and then some people are going to be surprised by up to 6 inches of snow. And then once again, an inch or two in DC and Baltimore, and maybe an inch or two up into New York City. Same thing for Boston, Connecticut, maybe an inch. Here's a look at the snow forecast for the whole U.S. over the next 60 hours or so. You can see those lake effect machines are going to bring some additional snowfall. And then, of course, we have those couple of clippers coming down, bringing a skiff or a scuff of snow to many from North Dakota all the way down into Ohio. And then look at this. What's this over here in the Pacific Northwest? That's right. A system's going to be coming in, and we've been talking for a while now about the extreme heat and the hot temperatures down here in the Southwest. It's finally going to be interrupted by a bowling ball of a storm that comes down. Look at that cold air coming down, bringing rain and snow into Washington, Oregon, Idaho, and then finally some colder temperatures will advect to the south here. And this is really what's going to spark our next massive storm in the central portion of the country. So let's start looking at that now. All right, let's start talking about our next big storm. We're going to look at this thing from the top down. We're not going to look at any surface maps just yet. We need to understand what happens up here to really understand what might happen with the storm. Once again, there's our bowling ball coming down into California around Tuesday, February 15th. But most of the action is happening way above your head here on the 500 millibar level, where we have winds above 80 knots there in the reds and the browns. This upper level wind pattern is going to open up the gates over here in the southeastern portion of the U.S. For warmer and more moist air to start advecting in. And then all of that cold air that's coming down with the trough is going to combine with it and of course form us a storm right here in the middle. We've been talking about this pattern for a while. I told y'all it was coming. If you wasn't prepared, it's because you didn't subscribe to this channel. So come on now, hit that button. Let's look at them swirly things real quick, and you can see all that vorticity over here on the west coast. Loading up, our baseball bat is in swing position. What's going to happen with it as it goes off to the east? It does eventually reach a neutral position here. We got a neutral trough on Thursday. Once again, that's going to allow this lift and this power to really start building up on the eastern side of the trough. Now, what you want to see, if you want to see snow on the northern side, you want to see that negative tilt happen, and it does. Okay, so now we've got air flowing in this way, which allows for them to kind of interact a little bit more, and that's exactly what's happening here as that baseball swing does occur. The overall wave really gets flattened out here as it goes off to the north and east. So we're not, as of right now, we're not looking at like a big bomb cyclone or anything like that, but certainly a potent system and a good snowstorm for many, according to this model. Now, once again, if you want snow, that negative tilt's good news for you up here. However, this is a two-part storm. We've got snow in the north and we've got severe weather in the south. So if you live down here and you don't want to see severe weather, actually you don't want to see that negative tilt. You don't want to see this thing become stronger. So for the rest of this video, as we continue to dissect this storm, I'm going to break it up into two parts. We're first going to talk about the snow, and then we're going to talk about the severe weather and all of the little intricacies that go into making that a worse situation or a better situation. So let's do that now. All right, starting off talking about the snow. We have a potential big snowstorm coming out of this thing, and there's a lot of ingredients that are coming together to make it happen. Big low pressure system up here trailing down a cold front, amplifying the cold air advection. We've got our big system, our big bowling ball upper air trough coming down to interact with that. We've got our moisture coming up from the Gulf of Mexico, and bada bing, bada boom, you put those things together and we start seeing heavy snow breaking out around 1 a.m. on Thursday from, central Iowa into southern Wisconsin and even into central portions of Michigan. And that just expands as this low pressure system forms. And now we're seeing possibly moderate to heavy snow around 1 p.m. in Oklahoma, Kansas, Missouri, and still into Illinois, Wisconsin, and Michigan as well. And then look at this, big time heavy snow over here in Canada. You guys are probably going to be the winners from this system, because as we push this thing forward, this thing really starts to get strong over here to the north and east. A 988 millibar low pressure system with gusty winds, possibly intermittent blizzard conditions there around 1 a.m. on Friday, okay? And we're seeing heavy snow possibly all the way down into Ohio and Kentucky on the backside as that cold air really digs down behind it. Most of the northeastern states stay all rain, according to this, but things still can change, all right? This is not set in stone. We are still very far out from this storm, but that's what the Euro shows right now. There's more weather models, Ryan. What about the GFS? Well, let's look at it. These models have been very consistent, and the GFS shows a very similar situation unfolding here on Thursday with snow breaking out on the northwestern side of this low. The GFS actually shows a little bit more of a warm nose in there, which might allow for some ice to start occurring here in Missouri all the way up through Michigan. Too early to really talk about that in detail, but that is a possibility. That low kicks off to the east and really starts to put down some heavy snow in Illinois on the latter half of the day Thursday. But as you can tell, this is a little bit more progressive than the Euro, because this heavy pocket of snow is further south and west on the Euro. But still a very strong storm up here in Canada with that 982 millibar low, gusty winds in New England and heavy rain and blizzard conditions on the northwest side there. So, I think that's more than likely going to be the case. Here's the projected snow totals from the GFS. As you can see, a general 2 to 4 inches out here in Missouri. And once you get into the purples there, we're talking about maybe 3 to 6. And then, of course, as you get into the pinks, we're talking about 8 to 10, maybe a foot of snow. And then well over a foot of snow, possibly 2 feet of snow as we get up into Quebec here. Once again, it's very important to remember that this is still a signal for a storm. Big things can change here. This is not necessarily a threat yet, so don't go buy your milk and bread or your beer and chips, whatever it is up there in Canada. But still, this is something to watch because the models are consistent. Let's look at the Euro. Pretty similar, just a little bit further south, and some of that snow affects areas a little bit further south and west. Like in Oklahoma, the Euro is saying you can get, 1 to 3 inches, whereas the GFS is not showing much at all for you. So little details like that will have to be worked out as we go into the future. And of course, we will also note where that heaviest axis of snow will eventually fall. So that's all I have for you right now as far as snow goes. Now let's talk about that unfortunate severe weather. So of course, all that warm air coming up and meeting with the cold air is going to spark thunderstorms down here. And what we think might happen is that an actual very strong line of severe thunderstorms is going to go through the deep south on Thursday possibly, and that could actually cause some big problems with severe weather. What we do know is there's a big plume of moisture coming up. Okay, you see all these yellows coming up and then clashing with the whites and the reds and the purples up there. That's just moist air crashing into dry air. When you combine some other aspects that will be available from this storm, that means severe weather most of the time, especially when you start seeing those yellows and the drier air become really close together. We might end up in a situation where we have a dry line, which, kind of forces our thunderstorms, and then we have a cold front right behind that with a big warm front in conjunction with this. And, this is a classic setup for severe weather in the Midwest and in the Southeast. Now, depending on where that low pressure system ends up, if it goes a little bit further north or a little bit further south, that'll determine whether or not Oklahoma and Texas and you guys have to deal deal with anything significant, but almost certainly the deep south down here is going to have some problems with severe weather out of this. As you can see, as I pull this forward, as we get into Thursday, that's once again a classic sign for a very, very strong line of severe thunderstorms with damaging winds. Let's look at those 850 millibar winds. So this is a little bit closer to the surface, but still way up above your head. And we refer to this as tornado juice if the increased values are in conjunction with the increased moisture and the increased energy and stuff like that. We call this tornado juice, okay? So possibly there's gonna be some out there in Texas and Oklahoma. If we can get the other ingredients to work with it, we might see a couple tornadoes. But what's really concerning here is how big and how strong this wind field gets as it moves off to the east. Once again, on Thursday, from Louisiana into Mississippi, Alabama, and Georgia, possibly maybe even as far north as into Arkansas, Tennessee, and Kentucky, we are concerned about a very strong line of storms here that could produce straight line damaging winds. And then if we get, individualized supercell thunderstorms, this is also going to promote the idea that we could see some tornadoes as well. Our saving grace may be the fact that we don't have a lot of CAPE. This is convective available potential energy. This is the fuel needed in the atmosphere for storms to form. And there's really not a lot of it out here. There's even less out here once it gets into the deep south. So this is one thing that we have to look at that could definitely lower the threat level, and the timing. Now, we don't need to pay too much attention to this, but this will give you an idea of what all these colors and numbers mean in a more simplistic way. This kind of resembles a radar. So there's your storms late in the day on Wednesday. These could possibly be severe, possibly some isolated tornadoes. We'll know once we get closer, but there's that big line of storms that forms later as we get into Thursday, and this is where we really start to worry about severe weather in the deep south. And that, of course, is going to make it into portions of the East Coast on Friday, but I don't think it's going to be a big problem over there as of right now. Now, I'm not the only one that thinks that the severe weather is possible here, okay? The Storm Prediction Center does have outlooks out already for Wednesday and Thursday, and guys, it's really not common to see slight risk of severe weather issued this far out this time of year, so something significant may happen here. And if stuff does hit the fan, we're going to have all of our storm chasers out there. I'm going to be live right here on YouTube relaying watches and warnings, so make sure you hit that subscribe button, son. What else do I got to do? Huge shout out to all of our members over here. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. Once again, some of you guys have been finding my other channels, the clips and the shorts channels. If you want to subscribe to those, there's links down here. There's links on my YouTube channel. You can just search Ryan Hall Clips. We got some good stuff over there, and I want you to see it, okay? And then, of course, follow me on Twitter and Instagram, as I'm going to have rapid fire updates on this system as we go forward. I'm in full-blown storm mode here. I had a little bit of a break, but now I'm back, okay? So let's get this going. Let's get the information flowing, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.